have seen or heard in this house. This one event is my favorite. This actually happened to my brother at about 10 years ago. My brother and his best friends had started a garage band playing mostly Spanish rock, alternative music, but in Spanish language. His friends could only get together on Sunday afternoons. They would practice into the early evenings and they would usually call it quiet by 8 p.m. This was the time I usually showed up and went to bed cause I worked the graveyard shit. This happened in late fall, so the days were getting shorter. They had just finished a long session when the decision to head to someone else's house came about. My brother handed his car keys to his buddy so they could load up the equipment everyone had filled out of the basement. But the tricky part was that they needed to walk all the way to the back of the basement, up the back stairs, through the kitchen doorway, down the hall into the living room, and out into the front porch. Everyone was outside sitting in my brother's truck waiting for him. My brother was walking up the back stairs when he remembered that he had left his pancakes into a container sitting on a speaker in the basement. He made the decision to go back to the room where he left his pancakes. Now the basement is not clean, with full sight lines. There had been partitions made, and the boiler and main heating unit are right smack in the middle. So after my brother walks back, he is about to retrieve his food container when out of the corner of his eye, he sees it. It is a shadow figure right at his peripheral vision. This feeling of dread and uneasiness washed over my brother. We had been taught that if you are in the presence of a spirit or ghost and you felt a bad vibe, to say a quick prayer or to cuss at it. My brother chose the latter. He basically just told it, hey, fuck you. I don't have time for this shit. My brother started to walk to the back of the basement and briskly up the stairs, closing doors and turning off lights as he was walking out. The last light switch is on the opposite side of the front door. Luckily, the door was open and the light from the street lamp was flooding the living room with its amber light. My brother said he felt something at his back, but at no point did he turn around. As if flicked the last switch, the living room went dark, as did the rest of the house. As he stepped out, he pulled on the door, closing it behind him. Still holding his food container in one hand, he jogged down the few spot steps. He walked towards the front gate. Our house resides far from the main street, essentially having a large front yard but no rear garage. As he closed the gap between himself and his friend laden truck, he kind of smiled and thought things over in his head, mad at himself for spooking out when there was no reason. Then he climbed into the driver's side of the truck, putting on his seat belt and getting ready to pull out of the parking spot directly in front of the house. When one of his friends asked, hey wait, what about your brother? Isn't he coming with us? My brother answered, what do you mean? He went to work early tonight. He is already gone. Do you see his car anywhere? The next question they asked, so then who was walking behind you when you were leaving the house? The next story of about rocking horse. One night when I was maybe 10 to 12, I had trouble falling asleep. My bedroom was the entire top floor of our house, with my bed and such being on the left side and storage closets and a play area being on the right. I was lying in bed when I heard a noise from the other side of the room and see a rocking horse begin to rock. It was sitting just outside one of the storage closet doors. It proceeded to rock its way halfway across the room and stopped dead under the ceiling light. At this point, I was freaking out and just buried my head under my blankets. and never peeked out again until morning. It was all confirmed to not to be a dream as the rocking horse was still in the middle of my room when I woke up. Furthermore, I got a stern reprimand from my parents for being up out of bed playing with my toys well past my bedtime. The bedroom was directly below the storage closet plate and had heard the creaking of the rocking horse shuffling across the room. Next story. My older sister has a ghost that followed her around for years. I lived with her once for about 3 months, and so much weird stuff happened in that time. All my sister would say to me when I mentioned it was that her ghost didn't like me being there. Things like going to bed with everything locked up and switched off, and waking up in the morning with the back door open, lights on, and the kitchen kettle switched on. One night, my sister and I were getting ready to go out, and I had asked to borrow her liquid foundation. I used it and put it back where she kept her makeup. 10 minutes later, she's asking me for it, and it was nowhere to be seen. She accused me of taking it and made me buy her a new one and refused to listen to my side of the story. About a year or so later, when she was packing to move to a new house, she found the makeup in a shoebox with some old letters. The shoebox was in a zipped up suitcase that was underneath her bed. But probably the most scared I have ever felt was one afternoon when I was the only one in the house. I had arrived home from work and headed straight to the bathroom. All the doors, windows, etc. were closed. I was standing in the bathroom and started squeezing a pimple on my chin when a female voice in the hall said, "Stop making your zits." It was loud enough and sounded real enough, and at the time I thought it was my sister, so I laughed, told her to fuck off, and asked what she was doing for dinner. No answer. I stuck my head out into the hall. No one there. I searched the house top to bottom, and there was no one home. I sat out on the front porch until someone else got home because I didn't want to be in there alone. Next story is about whispers. This is a story I do not often tell to anybody, anyone. I promise sincerely that this has scared me for life, and although I have looked into psychological explanations for what I heard and natural explanations for what occurred, they remain unsatisfactory. When I was a child, I was scared of the dark, like everybody else. I swore to my mother I heard voices in it. They were not evil, but they were not familiar, and so they scared me. It was not uncommon in the middle of the night for me to wake up and hear whispers, as I would call them and ask my mom. She figured they were just bumps in the night and typical kids' nightmare material. Like I said, I tried often to explain to her that it was more than that they sounded different from one another, the way people's voice do. On some nights, I would get so scared from these whispers that I would sleep in my mom's bed with her. It was an added bonus that the bathroom was directly outside of our bedroom door for my late night tingles. I should add at this point that when walking out into the hall to go to the bathroom, you looked directly down the stairs that would lead you into my living room on the first floor. On one such night, around Christmas, I awoke and felt the need to relieve myself. I walked out from the door and distinctly heard the phrase, "Look," and to my astonishment, a red light, almost like a spotlight, was cast upon the wall at the very bottom of the stairs. The light had no other source. It was by itself, and I was transfixed by it. I was very scared at the time, being a little kid, and it was only being a few days from Christmas. I knew what this light was. It was Santa. How else could he get into my house to know I was being a good boy? Getting so excited, I began walking down the stairs to greet him, picking up my pace after the second step as it began to creep off the wall and fade into the darkness in my living room. That's when I heard him, a very strong masculine voice, different from the first, not at all like my father's. It said, "Stop right now. Go back up those stairs." I listened. Turned around, and what happened next, I'm not sure I would believe if someone had told me the same story. After reaching the top of the stairs, I heard a very loud crash that sent me running back to my mother's bed, where I jumped straight under the covers and stayed there the whole night. I was very scared at that time. When we awoke the next morning, the poinsettia lights, like Christmas flower lights that glowed red, my mother had put on the railing down the stairs, were pulled straight down to the bottom of the stairs. Some broken from what seemed like a forceful tear, laying in a single pile. The dry sink in my living room had fallen from the wall. My mother could not explain it. My father was worried. We had been the victims of a home invasion. My sister was crying. There was nothing missing. Nobody had broken in. There did not seem to be any reason this had happened. And then I saw it. And I kept quiet about it because I was so afraid that I could not force words out of my mouth. There, on the edge of the wooden dry sink, which had been facing up, were three indentations where the finish on the wood had been worn, almost as if in a forceful grip. Something down there had grabbed it and threw it down. That was what the bang was. I was mortified. After that day, almost as if in a forceful grip, a long haul, she would say with pause that he couldn't leave the house. We have never to this day told her about that damn shadow, and she apparently never saw it. The next story is all about the shadow. I didn't know that's what it was called until much later. I was living in a house in Laguna Beach that had been there since 1920s. In its history, it had been a speakeasy, a brothel, and a house for smuggling illegal immigrants. One day my new wife and I were having an argument. I can't even recall what it was about. She walked down the block to get a cup of coffee and cool off things between happening with us, and I was alone in the house. The way the place was built was incredibly haphazard. There was a bedroom and living room on one side, then a bathroom with two entrances on the other. The bathroom was a hallway that had windows in one side and two bedrooms on the other. From my bedroom, I could look across the hall into the bathroom, then through the bathroom and down the other hall. I was standing at my dresser and I just noticed a movement out the corner of my eye. I looked down there. There was an honest to God, this gives me goosebumps just typing it now, too. 17 years later, a black figure. It was maybe 3 feet tall and it was only vaguely humanoid. It looked like black scribbles, like someone had scribbled a human shape, but scribbles moved like electricity, arcing. That's the best way to describe it. There was no sound that I could remember. I distinctly remember when I saw it, I wasn't afraid, just like what the fuck. Then it noticed me looking at it. I can't say it turned around, it just focused on me, I guess. Then I was so scared. I didn't move, didn't scream, nothing. I was just frozen because it just came to me. It rushed down the hall towards me. I have no idea what it intended, but as soon as it entered the bathroom, the door closest to me just slammed shut on it. I screamed. I yelled for my wife. She wasn't home. I went the fuck outside into the daylight and didn't go back in until she got home. About 10 minutes later. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe I saw something supernatural, but I know I saw something. I don't know what it was. The next story it was about the princess. How did the princess take control of our message board? If only for a few seconds. It didn't make any sense. A message board wasn't a video game. A message board pulled all its information from the internet. The princess was already inhabiting a game at the same time. All the rules were we thought we knew. All the things we thought kept us safe had failed us. Could she have done this at any time? Could she do it again? Were there any real limits to what she was capable of? We looked through all the data we'd collected. We tried to find some common thread we'd been missing. There must be have seen some way we could have known. There had to be more answers than what we were seeing, and there were. We finally realized the truth. It was so obvious the princess had been in our message board the whole time. She was on every page. She was on every forum list. She'd been staring at us, watching us for years, and we never even saw it. She was the banner at the top of the forum. She was every screenshot we'd posted, every video we'd uploaded, and every piece of fan art we'd drawn. Every image of her is her. Every image of her, when observed, keeps her power. She's not a ghost. She's not a computer virus. She's an idea, living fiction. She lives off our observation and thoughts of her. When we all watched that stream, banded together and gave her all of our attention all at once, we made her more powerful than she'd ever been before. We made her strong enough to manifest through the images we'd posted on our message board and speak directly to us. We took down all the images from what we speculate. It's enough to simply never look at them again, but we deleted them all just to be certain. However, it may already be too late for us. I've been losing contact with other members of the society. I can't tell if something's happened to them or if they simply gone into hiding. But at this point, only a fool wouldn't consider the worst case scenario. I'm not completely heartless. I know she's fighting for her survival now. For her, being forgotten is death. She does what she does in the hopes of keeping her memory alive. That end, perhaps my telling her story to the world is a small act of mercy. Maybe the thoughts I've lent her will ease her pain somewhat. I don't know, but either way, that isn't why I wrote all this. What I told you could put you in great danger, but it could also save your life. You are a target now, and in the months and years ahead, she may well come for you. But I have also given you all the knowledge you need to keep yourself safe. Do not try to fight her. Do not try to talk to her. Do not try to outsmart or trap her. Don't investigate. Don't try to understand anything about her. Don't try to be a hero or heroine. Don't try to be her savior. It is my sincere hope that I have given you all the answers you want, so you won't make on our mistake and try to investigate further. There is one and only one thing you need to be to safe. If you see her, turn off the game.